Another way that we lose is through breathing. Every time we take a breath in or out, we're losing fluid. Can you imagine that? We're blowing off some fluid. If you ever have breathed on a mirror or on a window, you can actually see that cloud of vapor you collect on that glass. And that's because we're losing water through that. The fourth way that we lose is by increasing our activity. When our muscles are working, especially if they're working in strenuous activity, we burn up more fluid because that's part of the mechanism of that muscle functioning. So those are normal ways we lose fluid, but there are also some other ways, less normal ways that we lose fluid. One of the biggest ones is through vomiting or diarrhea. And we've heard about that being especially dangerous with infants or young children, because you can lose large amounts of fluid very quickly through vomiting or diarrhea. And our small children don't have a lot of body fluid to hold on to in those small bodies. So it can become a problem very quickly. Diuretics, water pills. That's a common source of losing fluid. It's not considered exactly normal, but it is very common, especially in our older population. Also, high blood sugars and diabetes and fevers, those all add to it and take away fluid from our body. We talked about the problem with young children losing a lot of fluid. With the high exertion levels at this time of the year, we also hear about football players and athletes, don't we, having problems with dehydration. Again, because they are sweating and using up the fluid very quickly. So we are always in a balancing act. Our bodies are always in a balancing act between losing fluid and replacing fluid. And when we lose more fluid than we can replace, we get into a problem that we call dehydration. And what dehydration simply means is that our body does not have all the fluid that it requires to function normally. So it begins to give us a sign. Some of our functions don't work as well. Leslie mentioned the urine. The urine changes color to a dark yellow or a brown color because that's not working normally. Normally it's clear or light yellow. That's one area. Another thing we see, especially with older adults, is that they may become confused, disoriented, very lethargic. And sometimes we think it's the onset of dementia or Alzheimer's, because suddenly someone who's been very clear becomes very confused suddenly. And it can really just be a sign that they need more fluid in their water. Isn't that a nice fix if we can do that? Another problem is constipation. Did you know constipation can actually be a signal from your body that you're not getting enough fluid in? And so if we notice, in ourselves or in our loved ones, that there's a problem with constipation, that's one of the things that we want to look at. How much fluid are we getting in? And how can we get a little bit more in to help with that problem? Sunken eyes, or sunken eyes and skin that kind of droops. Those are both signs of dehydration as well. And also dizziness and falls. Because we don't have as much fluid in our blood vessels, we may get drops in blood pressure that may contribute to dizziness or falling, which can be a real problem, especially for our older adults. Dehydration, we see a lot in our older adults. One of the reasons is because of the medications they're on and the chronic problems that they have with diabetes and high blood pressure and some of those things. Some of it's because they avoid drinking as much water because they know that drinking more water means more trips to the bathroom. And as Leslie talked about, that can be very difficult for some people, especially if they have joint pain or other problems that contribute to that. But older adults also have a couple of other things going against them, unfortunately. And that is that they store less fluid in their body. They're already on the verge of being dehydrated just normally. They carry 10% less fluid than a younger person. And the urge for thirst often disappears. You know, we talked about as kids wanting that drink of water and how good it tastes. But as we grow older, that water doesn't sound so good anymore. And we may even turn up our noses at it, say, ugh, who wants water? Okay, because that urge for thirst isn't there.
When I was younger, I used to live for the day when they'd be able to afford to get air conditioner in the house.
That's right.
And the church, her church supported, you know.
That's right.
But now that we got it, people come in and sit here and they get too cold.
That's right.
Well, I think they should have it cold. The thermostat set too cold.
That's right. It is difficult because air conditioning for older adults can be very uncomfortable. We have to laugh at my parents sometimes because they have air conditioning in their car and never use it. And my sister was riding with them one day and the sweat was just pouring off. She didn't want to say anything and be rude and not appreciative, but the sweat was just pouring off as she was heating up and they were not warm at all. So we have to work some of that out. That's a very common problem.
That's also, he's always cold and I'm too warm.
That's right.
He turns the thermostat one way, I turn it the other.
That's right. That's right.
Her aunt and uncle went to a place down in Indiana or Kentucky or someplace with her uncle's cousin and his wife. And the guy had a Chrysler and he wouldn't run the air conditioner because he used too much gasoline to run the air conditioner. Boy, my wife's uncle, he just about come on glued.
That's right.
Yes, he still would turn it on.
And often there's arguing about it then as if they're back and forth. My father-in-law used to say that he heard the story of a conductor on the train that there were two ladies and one was complaining it was too hot. They'd open the window and then it would be too cold and the other one would complain. And the conductor was just beside himself and he turned to another fellow and he said, what am I to do? They're arguing about this all the time. He said, it's easy. Shut the window till the one suffocates and then open it and throw the other one until she freezes to death. So on that note, thank you again for coming.